Maybe you've felt this before. You're standing in a room full of people. Everyone is laughing, talking, enjoying the moment. And you're there too. You're still smiling, still joining the conversation, still reacting normally. But somewhere deep inside, you always feel slightly out of sync with the world. As if everyone else is living on the same frequency. And you are hearing something completely different. If you've ever felt that way, comment the number 1 below. Just to see how many people have carried this feeling for years, without ever truly saying it out loud. Some people spend their entire lives feeling different. Not necessarily better. Not necessarily worse. Just different. They think too much. Feel too deeply. Notice things other people completely miss. And sometimes, they feel like nobody truly understands the world inside their mind. Then one day, they take a personality test. And the result appears, INFJ. One of the rarest personality types in the world. But what shocks them is not the name itself. It's the feeling of, wait, this sounds exactly like me. Every description, every emotion, every reaction to the world. As if for the first time in their life, someone finally found the right language for things they were never able to explain. INFJ is one of the 16 personality types in the MBTI system based on the theories of Carl Jung. But this video is not about putting you inside a psychological box. Because nobody is just a simple label. Every human being is far more complex than that. The purpose of this video is to help you understand yourself more deeply. And if you are not an INFJ, this video may actually be even more fascinating. Because you are about to step into the inner world of a personality type most people never truly understand. In this video, we are going to explore the 8 most common signs of an INFJ. But we are not stopping at simple self-identification. By the end of the video, we will talk about how people like this can transform their sensitivity into real strength. The first sign is that you constantly feel slightly out of sync with the world. This feeling is incredibly difficult to explain. Because from the outside, you may appear completely normal. You still go to work. Still meet friends. Still socialize. In fact, many INFJs are actually quite charismatic and good with people. But what others do not see is the feeling of standing outside of everything that is happening. As if everyone else is simply living in the present moment, while your mind is always digging underneath it. When other people hear a sentence, you hear the emotion behind the sentence. When other people see a smile, you wonder, why did that smile feel forced? When other people are simply enjoying a party, you somehow notice. Who feels lonely? Who is pretending to be happy? Which relationship is slowly falling apart? Your mind does not stay on the surface. It constantly searches for meaning, motives, hidden emotions beneath everything. And that makes you feel like you exist on a different frequency from most people. Not because you hate humanity, but because you experience the world in a completely different way. Many INFJs describe this feeling as watching life instead of fully belonging to it. And the strange part is, you can actually be very good socially. You know how to respond, know what to say, know how to fit in. But deep inside, it feels like a social switch. You turn it on to adapt. Not because that is your natural state. And when you are alone, you return to your real self. Quiet, thoughtful, observant, and slightly disconnected from the world around you. The second sign is that you have extremely strong intuition, even though you cannot explain why. Have you ever met someone who seemed perfectly polite on the surface? Everything looked normal. But from the very beginning, something inside you quietly said, something feels off. Or sometimes, you feel like something is about to happen. Even though at that moment, there is absolutely no logical evidence. And then a few days later, it actually happens. This confuses many INFJs. Because they genuinely wonder, why did I feel that? In cognitive psychology, intuition is not magic. It is the brain's ability to recognize patterns at an unconscious level. Imagine your brain like a supercomputer running quietly in the background. It is constantly collecting tiny facial expressions, tone of voice, eye contact, hesitation, microscopic behavioral shifts. Things the conscious mind often does not even notice. Then, your brain connects all of that information together and produces a final conclusion. That conclusion is your intuition. You receive the answer without seeing the calculations behind it. That is why many INFJs say, "I can't explain it, but something feels wrong." And the unsettling part is, many times that intuition turns out to be correct. Not always, but often enough that you eventually start trusting it. A lot of INFJs try to ignore their intuition because they want to become more logical. But later, they end up telling themselves, "I knew it from the beginning." And sometimes, what exhausts INFJs the most is not feeling too much. It is not knowing how to explain those feelings to other people. Because from the outside, everything looks completely normal. But inside them, an entire warning system is constantly running. The third sign is that you are extremely sensitive to other people's emotions and behavior. Sometimes, someone only has to say, "I'm fine," and you already feel like something is wrong. Not because of the words themselves, but because of their tone of voice, the speed of their response, the small pause before they answered, their eyes, the emotional energy they give off. INFJs often do not listen with their ears alone. You read the entire emotional picture. And the strange part is, most people do not even realize those signals exist. For example, a friend texts, "I'm okay." Most people would believe it immediately. But you notice, they did not use emojis like usual. Their reply feels unusually short. Their texting rhythm feels different. Something feels colder in the way they write. And almost instantly, you sense something is happening. In behavioral psychology, human beings communicate through countless nonverbal signals. Not just words, but also tone of voice, facial expressions, posture, rhythm, emotional energy. And INFJs almost unconsciously absorb all of those signals. That is why you often know when someone is sad, even when they hide it very well. You notice exhaustion in people's eyes. You feel tension in a room, even before anyone says anything. You know when a relationship is starting to crack, even when both people are still smiling normally. This makes INFJs incredibly good at understanding others. But at the same time, it also makes you very easy to emotionally exhaust. Because the problem is, you do not only recognize other people's emotions, you absorb them. And that leads to the fourth sign. You are deeply affected by the emotional energy around you. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt heavy inside? Even though a few minutes earlier, your mood was completely fine. Or spent time around someone constantly negative, and after a few hours, you felt emotionally drained even though you did nothing at all. A lot of INFJs experience this. And sometimes, they even wonder, am I just too sensitive? But from a neurological perspective, this is a very real phenomenon. The human brain has a system called mirror neurons. These neurons help us empathize, reflect emotions, understand the emotional states of others. But in highly sensitive people, this system operates much more intensely, which causes the boundary between your emotions and other people's emotions to become blurred. That is why INFJs often feel overwhelmed in crowded places, exhausted after emotionally tense conversations, the need to be alone in order to reset. Not because you hate people, but because your nervous system is processing an enormous amount of emotional information. You do not simply hear emotions. You almost carry them inside your body. And this is what creates one of the biggest struggles for many INFJs. Because when other people are angry, you feel tense. When other people are suffering, you feel emotionally heavy. When someone is disappointed, you instinctively want to save them. And that leads to the next sign. You constantly try to heal other people. You tend to give too much of yourself away. Maybe you've experienced this before. You are completely exhausted. A long day. Your mind is drained. All you want is to go home, turn off your phone, and disappear for a few hours. But then, someone calls you. They are sad, heartbroken. They need someone to listen. And almost instantly, you push your own emotions aside. You sit there listening to them for hours. Comforting. Analyzing. Giving advice. Trying to help them feel better. And the important part is, you do it sincerely. Not for praise. But because deep inside, you genuinely want to reduce other people's pain. INFJs often have a very strong need to heal, rescue, help people become better versions of themselves. You see the wounded part hiding behind people's behavior. A person with anger issues, other people just see someone difficult. But you wonder, what happened to this person to make them become this way? Someone who constantly brags, other people find them annoying. But you think, maybe they've never truly felt valuable. You do not only see behavior, you see the pain underneath the behavior. And that is why so many INFJs become counselors, listeners, emotional safe places for other people. But the problem is, if you are not careful, you become the place everyone goes to take energy from. In psychology, there is a concept called energy vampires. People who only dump emotional weight onto others, constantly need healing, but never truly care about you in return. And INFJs are extremely vulnerable to being emotionally drained by these people. Because you are so good at understanding others, but often terrible at protecting yourself. Many INFJs spend their entire lives saving other people, healing other people, listening to other people, while nobody ever stops to ask, what about you? The next sign is that you deeply dislike shallow conversations. And the interesting part is, it's not because you're arrogant, not because you think you are deeper than everyone else, but because your mind simply cannot find energy in things that stay on the surface. Have you ever been at a party where everyone talks about the weather, celebrities, drama, clothes, the same repetitive stories? And after about 20 minutes, you start feeling exhausted. Not because the room is loud, but because your mind starts to disconnect. Meanwhile, give you one truly deep conversation with the right person, and you could stay awake until 3 a.m. without feeling tired. Talking about childhood, loneliness, the meaning of life, human psychology, things nobody has ever told anyone else. And the deeper the conversation goes, the more alive you feel. INFJs usually are not searching for more connections. You are searching for real connection, depth, sincerity. You dislike the feeling of wearing a social mask for too long. In social psychology, most people use small talk as a way to create safety before moving into deeper connection. But INFJs often want to skip that entire process. You do not want to talk just to fill silence. You want to understand people, be understood, touch something real underneath the conversation. And that is why so many INFJs feel lonely in crowds. Because there may be many people around you, but very few conversations that truly make you feel, someone is finally reaching my mind. If you've ever felt exhausted by socializing, but deeply hungry for meaningful connection, then that is a very common INFJ sign. And sometimes, what hurts INFJs the most is not being alone. It is the feeling that no one truly sees the real me. The next sign is that you find it extremely difficult to open up. Which sounds strange, because INFJs are often incredibly good at listening to other people. People easily tell you their stories, cry in front of you, share things they have never told anyone else. But what about you? Have you noticed something? Many people know their story with you, but very few people know your real story. Because INFJs often carry this fear, if people saw the real version of me, would they still stay? So instead of fully opening up, you tend to observe first, analyze first, test emotional safety first. You do not trust quickly. Not because you are cold, but because you feel emotions so deeply. Once you bond with someone, you do not connect halfway. You truly give your time, your energy, your emotions, your loyalty. And because of that, you are deeply afraid of betrayal. Many INFJs take a very long time to truly trust someone. But once they do, they almost hand over their entire inner world. And if that trust is broken, the wound often lasts for a very long time. Because INFJs do not just feel like they lost a relationship. They feel like they lost safety, trust, the rare place where they could fully be themselves. And that leads to one of the most famous INFJ traits: the INFJ door slam. This is the next sign. You can tolerate things for a very long time, but once you reach your limit, you disappear completely. Think about your past relationships. How many times did you keep forgiving? Keep trying to understand them. Keep trying to fix things. Keep trying to be patient one more time. To other people, you seem incredibly gentle, understanding, compassionate. But what they do not realize is, INFJs silently remember everything. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every moment they felt disrespected. You do not react immediately. You give chances. Then another chance. Then one more chance. Until, at some point, your nervous system decides, enough. And after that moment, everything changes completely. You do not scream. You do not seek revenge. You do not continue explaining yourself. You simply cut the connection off completely. Messages disappear. Emotions disappear. Care disappears. As if that person never existed. And this shocks many people. Because they cannot understand. How can someone so kind suddenly become this cold? But the truth is, the INFJ door slam rarely comes from impulsiveness. It usually comes from emotional exhaustion, complete loss of trust, the feeling that the relationship is beyond saving. It is not temporary anger. It is a survival mechanism. Because once INFJs recognize toxicity, manipulation, repeated dishonesty, their nervous system starts protecting itself by shutting the emotional door completely. And the sad part is, many INFJs only learn how to set boundaries after being hurt far too many times. But this is also the most important part of the video. Because if you truly recognize yourself in these signs, there is something you need to understand. These traits are both a gift and a burden. Your ability to feel deeply allows you to understand people, form powerful connections, have strong intuition, feel deep empathy. But if you do not learn how to manage it, it can also make you emotionally exhausted, trapped in overthinking, disconnected from yourself, overwhelmed by negative emotions. And that is why the next part may be the most important section of all. Not just, who are you? But, how can someone like you actually live happily in this world? If you recognized yourself in the signs we just talked about, then there's a good chance you've spent your entire life living in a state of feeling too much. You think more than most people, analyze more than most people, feel more deeply than most people. And the problem is, your mind almost never truly becomes quiet. Even at 2 a.m. lying in bed, your thoughts are still replaying old conversations, analyzing someone's facial expression, imagining the future, trying to understand everyone's emotions. INFJs often have an incredibly vivid inner world. But if you are not careful, that world can become a trap that keeps you stuck inside your own head for too long. And that is why the first piece of advice for INFJs is this: stop trying to become perfect. Start before you feel ready. A lot of INFJs struggle with one major problem. You create visions in your head that are too perfect. A perfect version of your career, your project, your future, your life, yourself. You want your writing to feel meaningful, your work to be exceptional, your relationships to feel profound, everything to feel right. And the result is, you procrastinate. Not because you are lazy, but because inside your mind, the standard has become impossibly high. In psychology, this is a very common internal conflict for INFJs. Your intuition creates an ideal vision, while your logical side constantly sees flaws, risks, problems, the possibility of failure. And eventually, you become trapped between wanting to create something extraordinary and being terrified it won't be good enough. Many INFJs spend years preparing, thinking, analyzing, planning, but never truly beginning. And the painful truth is, the world does not need the perfect version living inside your head. The world needs the version that actually exists. Allow yourself to be imperfect, make mistakes, look awkward in the beginning, create bad first drafts. Because imperfect action is still more powerful than perfection that never existed. Another INFJ trait is that you spend too much time inside your own mind. And this can become incredibly dangerous. You have a powerful imagination for the future. You constantly analyze situations, predict outcomes, imagine dozens of possible scenarios. That ability gives you strong intuition. But if you only live inside thought, your intuition slowly becomes distorted. Because intuition needs real-life data, not just imagination. If you stay isolated for too long, overthinking will eventually consume you. You begin to doubt yourself, create endless negative scenarios, overanalyze how people see you, emotionally exhaust yourself. That is why INFJs must learn how to step back into the real world. Not just think about life, but actually experience it, collide with it, Fail inside it. Intuition is the compass. But your feet are what create the path. And sometimes, the thing that hurts INFJs the most is the feeling that nobody truly understands them. You long for someone who understands your entire inner world, feels the depth of your emotions, truly sees the real you. But here is the difficult truth: very few people will ever understand you 100%. Not because you are too special, but because every human being is unbelievably complex. If you spend your life waiting for someone to validate your worth, someone to completely understand you, someone to save you from loneliness, you will always feel emotionally unstable. INFJs need to learn something deeply important: understand yourself first. Validate your own value first. Once you understand yourself deeply enough, the opinions of the world begin to lose their power. You stop living only to be accepted, be recognized, be fully understood. You begin to feel more peaceful, because you are no longer at war with yourself. And this may be the hardest lesson of all for INFJs. Stop holding everything inside. You may be incredibly good at reading other people's emotions, but other people cannot read your mind. This is why so many INFJs suffer in relationships. You think, if they truly cared, they should just know. But the truth is, most people do not experience the world the way you do. They do not notice tiny emotional signals, subtle emotional shifts, the pain you are trying to hide. And when you stay silent for too long, people assume everything is fine. Meanwhile, inside you, all the emotions begin piling up, until eventually, you either explode or disappear completely. Many INFJs are not good at asking for what they need. You become so used to being the listener, the healer, the person who understands everyone else, that you forget you also deserve to be heard. If speaking directly feels too difficult, write. If opening up feels overwhelming, start slowly. But do not force the world to play the game of guess how much pain I'm hiding. You must give people the opportunity to understand you. And finally, this may be the most important lesson for INFJs. Learn to protect your energy. You were not created to save everyone. You cannot become a place of healing for the entire world, while you yourself are emotionally empty. Remember this: resting does not make you selfish. Disappearing for a few days does not make you a bad person. Saying no does not make you cruel. Your nervous system processes emotions much more deeply than most people. Which means, you burn out faster. You overload faster. You become emotionally exhausted faster. You need time alone to reset, recover, reconnect with yourself. Sometimes, the thing that heals an INFJ the most is not people. It is a quiet room, music, books, nature, silence where nobody expects anything from you. And if you truly are this kind of person, understand something. Your sensitivity is not weakness. Your intuition is not something strange. The depth of your emotions is not a meaningless burden. Yes, this world can sometimes feel far too loud for people like you. But the people who feel deeply are often the people who create the deepest change, heal others the most, notice what everyone else misses. History has always had people like this. They do not lead through noise. They lead through empathy, vision, an incredibly strong inner compass. And maybe that is why you have always felt different. Not because you were born to blend into the crowd, but because you were meant to see the world more deeply than most people ever will. If this video made you feel, finally, someone understands me, comment the number 9 below. Just so people like you can remember, they were never truly alone.